Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ibu. I'm a software engineer. On this channel we do everything full stack from front end to back end. Today we're doing top 10 CSS tips and tricks with Tailwind. So without wasting much time, let's dive straight into it. The first trick that we're going to do is about optimizing your trick. Number one is how you can optimize your CSS with Tailwind, so that once you ship it into production, you can minimize it, the size. You can minify it and the size will be smaller. So one way of doing that is using the post config that comes with CSS, and you can just run this command npm npx tailwind css just to minify it. Go to your post css.configs.js, then you can run it just to use node, just to check if the environment is in production. Then you add css nano. If you're already using a framework, that's highlighted that the framework is doing it for you. Just double check and confirm. If the framework is not doing it for you, feel free to do it, just to be safe, just to make sure that you're not sending large CSS over the network. Trick number two that we are going to talk about today, it's about the CSS layout. It's about layouts. So let's say you have buttons that you want to style across the entire application. If you're using some libraries, you can do it from that library. But if you're not using a library, for example Cyan, you can add a different variant, add a style to it. If you're not using a library, here it's one way that you can use the layer. Within the layer, you can target the components, then you put an apply style. In this case, you can just use this button.primary and apply the primary styling on all your buttons across, just like how Tailwind utility classes work. All you need to do is put the apply directive at the beginning, then you can put your style, whatever style that you need to do. Trick number three is about responsiveness, about modifiers in CSS. So I created a small project. Let's get into it for trick number three. Let me open VS Code. VS Code is right in here. Let me move it here. So trick number three is I created so modifiers are very important that you need to know, especially if you need to do responsive design. So in Tailwind CSS, modifiers comes on this style. So if you use SN, means you want to apply it on a small screen size of 640 pixel and less. MD is 768. So let's dive into it. One way you can modify this, for example, this stops at 2XL that comes with Tailwind by default. You can add a 3XL. You can just go to the Tailwind configuration and add it. So let's look at the code and what this is doing. So the first one, it's applying just grid column. As you can see, it always starts from 0 pixel going upward. If I say on small screen sizes, I want the column to be 2. It means by default it's going to be 0, right? It means by default it's going to be 1, sorry, not 0. And that means if I put the small size here, all I'm saying is if I go all the way to 640 pixel, it means from 0 to 640 apply this. The moment I hit 640, apply this style. The same way goes on MD as well. So I'm saying if I'm on MD, I will apply grid columns to 3. So let's check on the browser and see what we have there. So I have the project running here. Let's see what happens here. By default it is 1, right? And as I extend the screen size, then this is small, and I'm saying that on smaller screen size I need 2. If I go all the way MD, then it's we get it more and more and more as we go ahead. The next trick that we're going to do, it's another plugin that can actually help you in development. What is that plugin? It's called Debug screen. So that allows you to know if you're debugging what screen size you are at, just to make sure you know what is going on. So to use this plugin, just go to your project, run this command. Once you run this command, go to your tailwind config.js. Inside your tailwind config.js, in the plugins are required, and in the body just add debug screens. So I will show you guys what I did. I already did this before. So let me go to layout. So in the body, I'm just doing a process because this is something that I only need in development. So I'm just checking the node environment. If I'm in development, I add it. So let's go back to our screen. Let's go back to the project to test, see what is happening here. As I'm minimizing the screen size, notice that we have this at the very bottom here, which tells me what screen size. Right now I'm in XL. So as I move it down, I'm in 2XL. So you see, This is a way for you to debug, just to know that the styles that you're applying, it's in correct order. So this is large, you see it changes to MD and it's now small. Number 5 is about negative modifiers. So negative modifiers, let's head back to the Tailwind documentation. Negative modifiers are a way of applying negative values. So for example, you're used to saying padding left of -8 pixels. For example, in Tailwind, all you have to do to apply negative modifier is to put minus before the sign. So this is very important if you want to style. So as you can see here, we give it a margin top of we have an 8. Yeah, I think 8 correlates with a 16. I don't know the exact Tailwind value, but we have a minus sign here that says that we want it to go in the negative direction. That's why this margin top here, it's a little bit on the side. The next one that we need is the before and after modifiers. So that is trick number 7, is the before and after modifiers. So these modifiers are very important. Let's go back to our code and then we can do the testing right here. So the before and after modifiers, let's say we have this code here for before and after. This is a use case where sometimes if you have an email, you want to put an asterisk right next to it just to tell the user that this is required, and you can style it with the after. Then you put any style that you want. In this case, we want to put a content of asterisk. We can have after, margin left, and so on. So if I save this, it should reflect on our application. As you can see, we have the email here, and the after content of the email, we have the asterisk there, which we give a specific size. The next trick is the space. That is, I will remove this since it is no longer needed. Let's dive right into trick number 7. So trick number 7, it's about how to apply space. What I'm going to do, I'm going to remove all these grid related styles here. If I go back to the browser, let's see what we have. So as you can see that we have all of them stacked next to each other. In order to apply styles, there's 2 ways to do it. One of them is just to give it like this is a flex container, give it a flex column and then a flex gap. But because the space here, it's very light, so for example, you can say flex column, and then we can apply a gap. In this case, let's say a gap of 5. If I do this, let's minimize it. You can see we have a gap of 5 here. But one way, this is 3 CSS, right? CSS always like the less the better. We can just put space here, which is where the space comes very handy. So I'll put space Y of 5. What this does is it's applying space on the Y axis. So as you can see, we need only 1 class here instead of the 3 class that we're doing flex. With grid, it could be 2, but this is spacings are very important to know, and they come very, very handy. You can do it if you want to change it for the x-axis, just change this to x and you could apply the space on the x-axis. The next one is how to compute dynamic values using Tailwind. So you can use Tailwind to compute dynamic values. One way to do it, let's say the first example, we change the width. So what you can do is just open bracket here, parenthesis, and then just calculate. The same way you would do calc, then 50% minus 1 rem. This is now going to compute it. So this way you can calculate dynamic value. So as you can see, we say that we need 50% minus, we can change this to 90% minus 1 rem. The changes will be reflected here. So just know that this is one way that you can compute the values in CSS. The other one is the important modifier. So in order to apply important modifier on Tailwind, all you have to do is just, well, I'm not here to answer the question on whether it's important to use the important or not. But yeah, this one way of applying the important style to Tailwind. Something to take note is if you want to apply the important style, it needs to come after the modifiers. For example, here I'm saying on a small screen size, if a user hover, then I'm giving it a modifier. I want this style to be very important. If there's another style, overwrite it. The last one, we're talking about environment configuration in Tailwind. So let's say here, remember how we talked about adding a plugin. This is a plugin that you only need in development. So one way is you can define a constant here. for example, since it's a plugin that we only need in development, here it's a way of checking if we're in development using node. And something that we can do here is just we can use the spread operator and then just spread add any of these plugins. So if this is true, then we add our dev plugin, and otherwise we just add an empty array. This way all the plugins that we need only for development will not be shipped to production. If we're in production, they will just be ignored. Yeah, so guys, that's 10 tips and tricks. If you like it, please subscribe to my channel, like this video for the YouTube algorithm. See you guys on the next video. Peace out.